Let's talk about the Chiefs getting their nice-looking Super Bowl rings and Mahomes proceeding to bury Ja'Marr Chase getting the last word. Minicamp wrapping up with some injury announcements, a Chris Jones update, Mahomes and Andy Reid impressed with wide receiver Skyy Moore, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, the Chiefs announced today that things are officially official with rookie wide receiver Rashee Rice, and he's now signed his rookie contract. And with that signing today, the Chiefs' 2023 draft class is now all under contract, and the terms of his deal have not yet been disclosed to the public as of when I recorded this video around 7 p.m. June 15th, but as soon as I find out, I will let you guys know. The Chiefs also signed another wide receiver today, and that was Kekoa Crawford, I think is how you say his name, and that is a guy who was there on a tryout basis and had a strong performance. The 6'1", 201-pound wideout ran a 4.4240 at the California Pro Day back in March, and then spent time with the Indianapolis Colts last season. So I think he had another pro day. He redid his pro day. If it was back in March, I don't know. But he originally signed with the Colts last year as a UDFA. And with this signing, Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest reported that to make room for the addition of wide receiver Kekoa Crawford, the Chiefs waived defensive back Anthony Witherstone. And he also said that Rashee Rice already counted against the 90-player roster as a draft selection, so everything should be good to go, at least for now, with the 90-man roster. On top of that, it was also announced today by Aaron Wilson that both QB Shane Buechele and tight end Jody Fortson signed their exclusive rights tenders, which makes their return for another season officially official as well. This was basically a formality. Their returns, we're already basically there. They're practicing every day at OTAs and all that. So just a formality, but there you go. A couple more players officially signed. And then the trailer for the Netflix documentary called Quarterback dropped yesterday, which was pretty cool to watch if you haven't checked it out. Link in the description. And in case you didn't know, the documentary known as Quarterback is a first of its kind partnership between the NFL and Netflix, giving a rare BTS look at three quarterbacks who, for the first time ever, were mic'd up for every single game, with those QBs being Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins, and Marcus Mariota, taking fans from inside the huddle to inside players' homes and giving a glimpse of how they navigate the pressure of their professional and personal lives. The documentary will drop on July 12th, so just under a month, and feature 9 episodes in total. And also, found this noteworthy, Patrick Mahomes formed a production company called 2 PM Productions and helped produce the series along with Peyton Manning's Omaha Productions. And the reason for Mahomes helping produce the documentary is because
I wanted to for sure be able to have some editing rights, because I've realized that I'm kind of wild on the field. I don't even remember the things that I say, but I'm a competitor. That's just who I am.
And he said he tried to keep a lot of the profanity out of there, but if he removed it all, there would basically be no footage of him on the field to watch, which I found to be pretty funny. But that's because Mahomes is the ultimate competitor and does not play games, even though it is a game, but you know what I mean. And how fitting that the year they decided to do this documentary, Mahomes and company ended up winning the Super Bowl, with the last stage of this accomplishment being celebrated tonight at Union Station, where a red carpet has been rolled out for a private reveal of the Chiefs Super Bowl rings. And it looked like an awesome event overall. Just like the White House visit, players showed up who are no longer on the team, but were on the team when they won the big game, which was awesome to see. And later in the night, we finally got to lay our eyes on the ring, and voila, here it is in all of its glory. You got the logo and the 3 trophies on the front. The ring shape represents the bird's eye view of Arrowhead, and then the top of the ring is removable and can become a pendant. And if that wasn't enough, once the top is removed, it shows the inside of Arrowhead Stadium with a historic quote from the legend Lamar Hunt himself. And my oh my, does this look good. Also, a funny side note, I love how the ring boxes that the players opened had TVs in them showing highlights from the Super Bowl. I felt that was a little bit extra, but hey, why the heck not? However, that wasn't nearly as entertaining to me as what Patrick Mahomes said after the event was over, putting the final nail in the coffin to this Ja'Marr Chase nonsense once and for all. Ja'Marr Chase may honestly never fully recover from this, that poor ringless individual. Anyway, here's what happened. By now, you all know that Ja'Marr Chase recently said Joe Burrow was the best in the league, the MVP, and when he was told by reporters that Joe Burrow actually said it was Pat who was the best in the league, Ja'Marr immediately responded saying, Pat who? Pat who? And my honest response to Ja'Marr saying Pat who is
Pat Mahomes. Pat who? Pat Mahomes. Pat who? Pat Mahomes.
I made that clip earlier today and had to work it in this segment somehow because That was art. Anyway, Mahomes' response was even better than that because the two-time league MVP, two-time Super Bowl champion, and two-time Super Bowl MVP took to social media after the ring reveal event, sharing this picture and simply saying, "That's who," with 2 ring emojis basically saying, "This is who you somehow didn't remember, Jamar." And he wasn't done there because he then followed up in a comment that had one simple letter, and that is the letter L, meaning you lose, I win. I mean, somebody better go check on Jamar right away because that man just caught a body. Good God Almighty. And to put a bow on this segment, I think Sam McDowell of the KC Star sums it up nicely, saying Patrick Mahomes is an always gets the last word kind of player, and yet people keep poking the bear. Well, Sam, maybe one day they will learn, but for now, I'm here for all the shots that petty Mahomes wants to fire. All right, with that chapter now closed, talking about the 2022 season, the next step of the process as the Chiefs look ahead to the 2023 season will be training camp at the end of July. Now that mandatory minicamp is officially over. Thankfully, the team came out of everything relatively healthy, according to Coach Reed, although he did give some injury updates, and we got our answer about Blake Bell missing. He had an epidectomy. And in case you didn't know what that is, because I sure didn't,
an epidectomy
removes the epididymis, which is a tube that holds the little fish that swim around. And you may need the procedure done for the reasons listed here on the screen, but that's all I'm going to share about that because I am not a medical doctor, and this was way more than I cared to know. Anyway, other injury updates included Mike Edwards, who's dealing with a hamstring injury of sorts. Trent McDuffie stressed his fibula, but coach added, quote, "He should be okay though." Pacheco had shoulder surgery. Trey Smith strained his tricep at the latter part of camp. L'Jarius Sneed's knee swelled up a bit, so they backed off of him for now. And then Turk Wharton had the ACL surgery, and when asked if all of these guys would be good to go for camp, Andy Reid said,
"Yeah, most of them will be ready to go. I mean, there are a couple of them we just have to see on, so I'll get you that though day one when we get back."
And which couple of players those are, I'm not sure, but if I had to guess, it would be Blake Bell, Turk Wharton, and Isaiah Pacheco, but we will find out in roughly a month or so. And then obviously defensive tackle Chris Jones was missing all camp as well, but that's because it was, quote, his choice not to show up.
Yeah, so Chris wasn't here, kind of like last year, same type of deal. So that's his choice. He chose not to be here.
Coach said he should be at training camp. There's a chance he's not, but we'll see. And when pressed a bit further on the Chris Jones situation, this is what he had to say.
Yeah, I don't even deal with it. I let Brett and his group deal with it. If you're there, you're there. And if you're not, we keep going. You know, it's one of those deals. So they'll work all that out. They're communicating, so that's important.
What's your communication with Chris been about all this?
Make sure you're in shape.
Okay, well, there you go. They've been communicating, which is good, but that's all we really have to go on. Andy Reid did a nice job of deflecting to Brett Veach and company, though I'm sure he knows a bit more than he's letting on. Either way, that was his answer, but I hope news is announced in the coming weeks that Chris Jones signed a nice fat extension with Kansas City. I mean, Mahomes sure made it seem like he wants to keep the CEO of Sack Nation around for years to come.
I think Chris knows that we love him here. He's been a part of this team for a long time. He's one of the main reasons that we've had the success that we've had. He's been that leader on the defense, and you want those guys on your team.
And then at the ring ceremony this past evening, Chiefs GM Brett Veach spoke on the situation with Chris as well, and things seemed pretty positive from what he said from a conversation standpoint between CJ and the team.
But we have great communication, and look, there's a lot of time before camp, so I feel good about, where we're going to be with Chris, and I'm sure we'll have great dialogue from now to the start of training camp, and look forward to Chris being here, and not just for next year, but for a long time. I mean, these things usually get worked out right during the first start of camp, so we anticipate the same, and we'll see how it goes.
Well, Veach, all of us here at Chiefs Kingdom are also waiting and wondering how it's all going to go. And while what Brett said did seem positive, it was a bit odd to me that Chris Jones did not come out to the event from what I could tell. You could see him in a live stream of Pacheco as Pop streamed the event on Instagram, but that was about it. And from all the reports I saw on Twitter, even from somebody who spoke with a reporter that was there, Chris Jones was not in attendance, and I found that a bit odd that he would not come out for such a special event to get his second Super Bowl ring. He went to the White House after all, but you never know what's going on with players. Maybe he was on vacation, had a prior engagement, maybe he simply wanted to avoid all the media questions about it for now, or maybe just like this photo from the White House, he fell asleep and missed his flight. But what do you guys think about all this? Is it odd to you that Chris Jones wasn't there? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. and let's move on back to minicamp takeaways. And on the subject of the defense, not the D-line, but the secondary in particular, Coach noted that the secondary knows what they are doing now. Much less broken plays are happening right now at this point than it was last year, and are pretty sound with what they're doing out there. Much improved from last year, basically, which is what everyone else has been echoing over the last handful of weeks. Justin Reed said it, Spags said it, and now Big Red. Mahomes also noted that the defense being more together helps the offense better prepare as well. So it is a win-win for everyone involved. And speaking of the offense, Coach is happy with Skyy Moore's progress from year one and noted he was targeted quite a bit this offseason, getting close to the most catches. Mahomes trusts him and he's taking a good step forward. And Mahomes did indeed say that his trust and rapport with Skyy has without a doubt gotten stronger. You could see Skyy really getting a grasp of things near the end of the season, and he said that has carried over into the offseason as well.
He's someone that's going to be able to called upon more, kind of in that same role probably Juju was in last year. But he can also go over the top and make big plays happen. It's hard for those young guys sometimes to have an expanded role. And as the season goes on, the role kind of expands, and then that second year is when they really take off.
He's not only excited for Skyy, though, he's excited for a lot of them, seeing how quick things have come together for the offense as a whole. He made a good point, though, that last season, almost the entire receiving core was new. You had MVS, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson, and then Kadarius Toney was traded for halfway through the season, and all those guys, aside from Juju and McColl, are back, which helps out a lot in the progress of the room as a whole.
So they were all learning together, trying to figure it out and put it all together, whereas now they can teach each other. And you have guys like Marquez and Skyy and Kadarius and Justin Watson. They can teach these younger guys like how we do things, how to run the routes a little differently than where they've been previously or in college.
Mahomes then echoed something he said a few weeks ago about not knowing who's going to make the roster.
There's going to be a lot of competition. I said it the first time I was up here. It's like I don't even know who's going to be that active roster opening day because there's so much competition, and I can see these guys all making the team.
And not everyone agrees with that assessment. Some say Mahomes is just being a bit too kind here, and he more than likely knows the majority of the wide receiver room that is going to make the roster. I mean, if we want to argue about one of the last wide receivers, maybe wide receiver 5 or 6, if they roll with 6, or 7, if they for some reason roll with 7, which I doubt, then okay. But as of right now, you can use some reasoning here to work out the majority of the wide receiver room. Carrington Harrison of 610 Sports, for example, tweeted this out earlier today, saying 4 spots are locks with MVS, Kadarius Toney, Skyy Moore, and Rashee Rice. Cutting Watson would be lighting $1.38 million on fire, and Richie James is their most experienced / proven receiver outside of MVS. I think we know the roster, and while many don't like to hear that, the Chiefs will more than likely roll with 6 wide receivers, with the 6 being Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Skyy Moore, Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, and Richie James. That's more than likely how the 53-man roster looks at the moment, at least in my opinion. I mean, Justin Ross wasn't even working in team drills during minicamp, only individual drills, so it's hard to have him making the roster at this very moment, but I've gone over this in much greater detail in this video here, so make sure to check that out. Now, is there a chance Richie James or Justin Watson could get beat out by Justin Ross or John Ross? I mean, I suppose, but they will really have to show up and show out at camp and in preseason, and unfortunately, we're going to have to wait a while to see that, and things could change in the 53-man roster projection as the weeks that turn into months go on, but we will pretty much have to wait and see. But that's where I want to get your thoughts on all of this in the comments down below. Do you think everyone has a path to where they can make the roster like Mahomes said, including Ty Freifogel, Nico Remigio, Cornell Powell, the newly signed Kakoa Crawford? Or is the room pretty much locked up with maybe a couple of guys fighting for the last spot? Let me know in the comments down below. And with minicamp over, this is now the time where coaches and players can relax a bit and take a bit of a vacation. After all, the season is long, especially considering they won the Super Bowl, so they played till mid-February, then had to do like pressers, the parade, jumped right into free agency, draft, OTAs, etc. However, Andy Reid may be working a bit during that time of vacation anyway, even though he may be at a beach.
I'm at the beach, but I'm not really, I don't have that beach body.
Hey man, there's no shame in a dad bod out there on the beach, okay? Andy Reid just saying. Anyway, I'm going to end it on that note, and until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?